So great. So I wanted to take the time to, I guess, first just do a quick introduction of, how I know you and, kind of what the thought process is around this, um, this meeting and what we're planning to do. So you're actually my inaugural member of my interviews with entrepreneurs. And I'll just let everybody know that's going to watch this that Rob actually worked for me at the Wireless Zone of Herndon, probably for a little over a year. A great salesman, great personality, and just an awesome student at the time. And I know that recently you've graduated and you've been working on a number of projects. I've been kind of keeping track of things that you're doing, and definitely impressive. So I'm glad you took the time for us to connect, and just ask you to kind of give a quick background about yourself and about some of the things that you've done and that you are doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. For anybody who may watch, I'm a recent graduate from North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am indeed an entrepreneur, actually going through a program right now that NC State has called the Miller Fellowship. And that's essentially for entrepreneurs to continue their work and to have the school pay them just a small $500 monthly stipend. They call it the Ramen Noodles and Cheap Rent Plan, which is pretty accurate. But yeah, just a really great community to connect some of the young entrepreneurs together in the same space and have them a part of an accelerator to just offer, legal help, experience, and what have you. The project that I've brought to the Miller Fellowship and that I've been working on for about a year now is an automated cryptocurrency trading platform. So always confuse a lot of people when I give the explanation, so I've gotten a lot better at simplifying it. But essentially, there's three components to it. There's cryptocurrency, which a lot of people may know Bitcoin as the kind of primary asset, but there are other cryptocurrencies in the market. And just like with stocks, you trade in and out of positions that you think are going to do really well. And so what we have is a program that's able to trade in and out of Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies and return a profit. So we've developed a system that allows us to test algorithms and actually execute them on markets. And we were live testing with investor money of up to 50,000 USD worth of cryptocurrency. We did really well our first month, outperformed the market by 10%. And then the other two markets, the market fell, and we did quite poorly. So recently we've done a little bit of a pivot, and we said there's not really an infrastructure out there right now that'll allow exchanges to provide automated trades for their clients. So we decided, let's just provide the infrastructure for these exchanges that they can create these automated strategies and provide to their clients and see if that's something they would like. We've gotten a lot of great feedback, and we're looking to onboard our first clients this month.
Well, that's fantastic. So yeah, really cool. I can tell you that I recently did a podcast on why I don't think for most people it's that Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is a good investment, but I think it's probably for people that are educated within that space. Not to discount it at all, but that's something that I definitely know a little bit about. I'm sure you know a ton more than I do, but I think for the average investor that's just kind of trying to put some of their retirement money or just kind of some investments on a speculative side, I think it makes sense. I was a little person that probably wouldn't recommend that people put their like life savings or anything into it, but yeah, I mean, I think that's really an interesting thing that you're doing. How I guess one of the first questions I want to ask is really so you mentioned a little about the business. How did you, or at what point in time did you determine that, hey, entrepreneurship is something that I want to do, and kind of how did you pursue that and get into that?
So sophomore year was really that point, and I actually kind of create I have a diary that I keep track of, some of the, I guess, life-changing days, or days where I really sit down and reflect and make a decision. But I would say around sophomore year, my roommate, he got kicked out of the room because his grades weren't good enough. He was the resident mentor. And so I just had the room to myself. And, prior to that, I was just, living the average college life, just going out to parties, having fun, taking care of schoolwork, everything like that. But when he got kicked out, I really had a lot of time to reflect and look back on my college experience. And that's when I decided that I wanted to do something. I wanted to make an impact. And so going into that summer, I brought it to that same friend. He's one of my best friends now, Christian. And I said, hey, let's start looking at stuff. I've got a couple ideas. Let's talk about this. And actually around that time, so sophomore year, that was about 2-3 years ago now. One of the first things that we tried was investing in Bitcoin. And so 2-3 years ago, investing in cryptocurrencies was the easiest thing in the world. I mean, you just had this app called Circle, and you were just able to, directly deposit from your bank to the app. You didn't have to do any sort of verification or anything like that. That's one of the first things that we got into. Sad to say that we didn't just stick with that. That's kind of ironic, but I ended up doing this whole little Circle thing where I tried a couple different things, tried, a couple different app ideas. But I guess going back to the initial question, it was sort of when I got into, I guess, cryptocurrencies as like the first venture, it was really cool to see that I was able to make an investment and receive some money. And, it was the first time that I had moved away from home. I wasn't sort of using my parents to support myself. I was just living with my friend, and we were just starting on, working on our dreams. And I think, that was a defining moment for me, being able to, have that freedom around pursuing different ideas that I had that was so appealing.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I remember at the time when you're working on a particular app, and I can say personally that I think every entrepreneur and, any of even the big ones that you see out there, even people on Shark Tank and such, will all tell you that, at some point an entrepreneur comes up with an idea and it doesn't work and it doesn't work and it doesn't work. And one of the things I thought was really cool, I remember seeing a quote, I think it was by Thomas Edison, where it was, where they said, like, you've been working on this project and you kept failing, why did you keep going? And he said, I didn't fail, I just kept figuring out what didn't work. And, I thought that was really an amazing kind of look at it. So, tell me about I know the app that you're working on. Tell me a little about, where that went and what did you learn from that? And, how have you kind of used that in toward what you're doing now?
So the first app idea that I had was something called Ready to Push. It was basically an idea to take video segments from YouTube, Netflix, HBO Go, whatever people are watching, and just send them directly to your friends through messages. I personally like sending like little clips on YouTube to my friends, but there wasn't really like a central feature that would allow me to just like take clips. I had to, do a lot of extra stuff to send it out to friends. And I just felt like it, made the whole experience sort of inconvenient. So I guess so I had no idea what I was doing. That was the first real project that I started on. I ended up getting a patent for the idea, which was absolutely a mistake. Just because, when you start out, you want to make sure that your idea is protected, and you think that's the most important thing in the world, but you never really take into account that you haven't really tested out the idea yet. Before anything else, you haven't tested out the idea. And a lot of people don't realize that you shouldn't be too worried about somebody taking your idea, because the reality of the situation is they probably won't have that sort of motivation that you have to take it further. They probably won't be as far along as you are. You're actually going to get a lot better feedback and a lot more added to what you're working on when you reach out and talk to people about what you're doing. But of course, I got a patent, didn't end up using it. After I started a Kickstarter campaign and it didn't go through. Again, I just had no idea what I was doing. But ultimately, I think from that experience, I realized that I didn't really, I liked the idea, but it wasn't something that I felt was really tangible for my experience at the time. And so that moved me into another app idea, which was a party app idea, in which we wanted to provide an application for party hosts to be able to manage who can see their party, who can come, sort of a way for them to pay through the app, keep track of who's at the party. So, if they're not feeling safe, they're able to contact people in the local vicinity, all these sorts of things. What I ended up doing was getting a bunch of friends a part of the project. Before I knew it, there were 12 people involved. And that was another failure. I didn't realize that it was going to be just so difficult to manage that many people, and that, you have to surround yourself with a core small group of people that really see the vision and are really willing to sacrifice and put in the time that you are, because the reality of the situation was these are, a bunch of college guys just trying to pass classes. They really like the sound about the idea, oh, party app, that's amazing. That's exactly what we sort of need. But yeah, just going through that and realizing that it's not a numbers game. It's not, protecting your idea per se. It's more so just getting that feedback and being able to test your idea early and just get that feedback.
That's great. No, yeah. I mean, I think that's awesome. And again, I mean, you're just really kind of like starting out, and you're already doing some amazing things. So I think, the lessons learned are huge, especially when you can learn them, super early on. So what was kind of like one of the things that someone gave to you as advice that kind of the most impactful thing that you would say, this is kind of what motivated me, or, like where do you get your inspiration from? And kind of what are some of the things that, mentors or whatever have told you that kind of resonate with you that you think would be helpful to share with other entrepreneurs?
That's one I have to think about. There's not like one real quote that just sticks out to me at the moment. I did used to listen to a lot of podcasts by Gary Vaynerchuk. He's essentially, he was an immigrant who came over here when he was really young. His dad had a wine shop, and then he was able to, turn that wine shop from I think he said like a $2-3 million business to a $50 million business. And that just came from his hustle and grind. When he was young, he would just sell baseball cards. He would do anything, wake up really early, go to the mall, get these cards, sell them around, the neighborhood. He would rip up flowers in his neighbor's yard and sell them back to them. Just a very ambitious, crazy kid. But a lot of what he said resonated with me, with the drive and just the ambition, the raw, just wanting to succeed. And, one of the ideas that he proposed was something called the 2017 Flip Challenge, whereas essentially you would just go out to garage shops and, Goodwill, and you would buy stuff for really cheap and you'd sell it online for really high. It was called the 2017 Flip Challenge because you were, if you did that and you did it right, you should be able to make $20,170 in a year or something like that. But wow, yeah, just a podcast from Gary V, Entrepreneur on Fire, was really good. Just listening to some of their stories. I guess real life mentors, probably actually my partner and co-founder of my current automated cryptocurrency trading platform, WolfGen. I don't think I've said the name. He's 21 now, and he's already started up a business. He has a mining store where he's brought in $2 million in revenue to date. And just seeing his tenacity, working with people around the area, taking trips all over the world, building up his network. I rely heavily on him for his experience and, sort of his, youth going into this.
All right. Well, that's great. Do you think a lot of, I mean, at least for you, because I'm sure it's different for every person, but do you think a lot of, your desire and your your drive, do you think a lot of that was something that, was nurtured in you in your youth, or, came to you at college? Like, how did that come about? And how did you know that, hey, this is the way I'm going to go? I'm not going to do like, 95% of the people get out of school and just go and get a job.
I talked to my friends, my close friends, about this a little bit. And I feel like for our generation, we were taught by our parents to always try to be the best. that was something that, for whatever reason, was really established into a lot of the millennials. And I feel like a lot of millennials reach that point where they realize, like, in real life, you can't always be the best. You can't always get what you want. And for me, I've just always been a bad loser. You know, I played a lot of sports growing up, just always been very competitive. And for me, a lot of the time, it was just never wanting to give up. What I found in talking to my friends, either you have it or you don't. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's just a fire to just want to do it. You realize that you're more likely than not going to fail, but just being able to overcome, you know, your fear of failure and, you know, the probability that you won't succeed. That's just something that personally just, you know, motivates me. And yeah, I do have my lows as well as my highs, but during my lows, those are actually the time where I rally the most, because, you know, the way I think about it is, you know, this is a low, I can only go higher. I can only try to, you know, get better. If this is the worst, you know, and you know, I've taken that punch to the face. I took it and I kept going.
Yeah, no, and I can resonate with that. I mean, you know, you went through the experience with me at Herndon, and you know, I think a lot of, you know, any entrepreneur, that I always say, anybody that hasn't taken, you know, their credit card and ran through the credit card machine or borrowed on their house or did some other kind of thing to, you know, anybody who hasn't done that, or is trying to figure out how do I make the next payroll or struggle through, you know, they don't really know it yet what it's like to be an entrepreneur. At some point, if you haven't had that experience, it's going to come, you know. And I think, you know, a lot of people out in the world see the successful entrepreneur and just assume that it's just comes immediately. And, you know, this person just went out there one day, came up with a business idea, opened up their business, and they became a millionaire in a year. And, you know, I think we both can attest to that. That doesn't happen. You know, it definitely takes a lot of hard work, and I'm with you. It's like you have to just love it, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And one of the questions that you and I were talking about is what do you think for your generation, right? What is your advice, or what are your thoughts for the millennial generation on entrepreneurship, and where do you kind of think that, you know, what the level of entrepreneurship might be within that, and what advice would you give to other millennials who are, you know, interested in the entrepreneurship route?
I've been reading a lot of articles recently, some on Forbes as well. They say that, you know, actually entrepreneurship has sort of been declining in the past decade. And, you know, that's been kind of interesting. But when I think about it, you know, some of the superpower companies like Google, Amazon, you know, just buying up everything, I think it's almost going to be extremely hard in entrepreneurship later down the line. I think a lot of the startups are going to have to be more tech savvy, which is going to be difficult because you're trying to compete against companies that have billions to put into, you know, the same tech. So I do think that for future entrepreneurs and millennials, you're gonna have to be really niche specific in what you target. I'm not saying that, you know, it's gonna be, you know, impossible to sort of compete with these big companies. You're just gonna have to focus on an area that they aren't so much focused on that still holds value, I think. I would say for young entrepreneurs, you can't go wrong with, you know, dipping your feet in the water a little bit. There's so many different ways to make money online, whether it's drop shipping, which I think is a great way to learn, you know, supply and demand, just being able to work with a supplier overseas, create your own shop. And I actually just had a friend who was so happy he made $200 in one day, just setting up a niche specific site for corgis, like little dogs, just you know, just items for corgis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's another opportunity about starting up ATM banks and just placing them in locations, because apparently like the stores, they don't actually own the ATMs. It's actually an individual who owns them, and then you're bringing in transaction fees. But anyway, just all these different avenues that you can get into online. If you can find something that you sort of like to do within that, I don't foresee you having a problem maybe taking 30 minutes to an hour, a day or over the weekend to, look into some of these things. Surround yourself with people that sort of have your mindset. And, being an entrepreneur isn't for everybody. But I do believe that everybody can find something that, they can learn about each day. And entrepreneurship is a great way to learn about many things.
Yeah, I want to call out really quick. One of the things you just said was that, to take a half hour, an hour every day to do this. And I think, a lot of entrepreneurship opportunities require, a significant amount of time. But to get started with anything, it really does just take that little bit of time where you can do it as a side, right? Kind of, as they say, the side hustle, where you're taking an hour at night or, at your lunch break or whatever it might be, and just creating something. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people don't really make it in entrepreneurship, is that, you come home after a hard day's work, 8 hours at the office, or, whatever your job is, and you just want to sit on the couch and watch movies, stare at your phone, or, do something that's, entertainment, which is all well and good. But, if you want to be that entrepreneur, you got to make that sacrifice and put in that time to at least get something rolling in the right direction. And then as you kind of build that, you need to do, even more. So how would you say, do you agree with that? And then what things do you feel like you've sacrificed, or have you had to sacrifice to, kind of get where you're getting right now? And what's that experience been like?
Yeah. So I do just that. I take at least 30 minutes a day to just work on coding. Just, working with online platforms to just, take the daily missions and whatnot, just because I want to get better at coding over the next 2 years. I want to be able to read code. I want to be able to talk to people that I'm working with and understand what they're writing. But my roommate, on the other hand, he comes home every day and he just plays Fortnite. But that's what he loves to do. So it's very hard, but because I guess I will say he does, try to go to the gym every day, which is another good substitute. So it's not something that, could directly help him in business, but it's something that, he does that's productive and brings something of value to, his personal health and growth. So, you got to do what makes you happy. But I do feel like a lot of people don't know that they would like something because they haven't tried it. And that maybe if they, did try something for 30 minutes, an hour to a day, they might find that it brings them more happiness than, what they're currently doing. But, I do realize, I think it has to be in you again. It just really has to be in you to want to, constantly improve. And, even when you're tired, be able to say, I want to, take 30 minutes out of my day to just do this one thing, whether it's eating healthy, exercising, learning to code, reading. But it has to be internal, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great. That's definitely a great piece of information. Is, for other people, that might be all they really want. And that's okay. I think we need entrepreneurs. We need, workers in the office. We need, every person has their purpose. And so, for other people that, kind of want to, sit on the couch and relax, not to degrade that, not to say there's anything wrong with that, but, from an entrepreneur's perspective, if that's what you want to be, I think you'd agree that, that extra effort needs to be put in. And a lot of times that's going to be the later nights, or that's going to be the, the weekend project or whatever, where other people are just kind of doing, the recreational thing. Right. You're going to fit in time to do your entrepreneurial thing, right?
Is that it's something that I genuinely want to do. I genuinely want, because I have this picture in my mind of what I want to do with this coding experience. I think for a lot of other people, it becomes a situation where they try to force themselves to do it. And if they're not really into it, it becomes that situation in like exercise where you might be able to work out for the first couple of weeks, but after that you realize, man, why am I in here right now? I don't really feel like getting out of bed right now, because you really don't want it per se. You're forcing yourself to do it.
Right. No, and I think that's like anything in life. It's if you really want it, it's hard work. There's no. It's funny because I like YouTube and I'll check out lots of videos, and you'll always see suggested videos of people that have how to make $1,000 in one day, how to make $100 every day, how to make this amount of money without any effort, and it's just they're just doing that to get people to watch their videos. But there's no real thing that just do no work and make lots of money. That doesn't exist. So it's great to get all those people that that are looking for that, but they're never going to really turn that into anything. So and like you said, it's it's a labor of love. You have to enjoy it, and clearly you do. So what advice, and this might be kind of cliche, but what advice would you tell your younger self, whether it's in high school or or starting out in college or whatever it might be? What would you know what you know now? What might have you done differently, or what would you tell yourself, your younger self?
2 years ago, I said I didn't want to do coding because I started on working on coding 2 years ago. And I was like, man, it's going to take me 2 years to get really good. And that was 2 years ago. If I had done that 2 years ago, I would have been pretty good now, and I would have been able to further contribute to our trading platform. So I think for me, the biggest thing has been, if I go back and I revert to the earlier point I made about how we started, with our whole entrepreneurial experience, me and Christian, we started investing in Bitcoin. If we'd have just stuck with that, we would have had hundreds of thousands of dollars right now, because Bitcoin at that point 2-3 years ago was $200-$300. So if I could go back, it would really be surround yourself early with people who have experience in the markets that you want to be a part of. Go out and find those people. Whether you have to try to find them online and schedule time for you to meet them in a coffee shop or whatever. Find people who are where you want to be and associate yourself with those people. And then when you sort of have those people, sort of stick with what they're telling you. Don't for me, it was like, let me try everything. Let me try a little bit of everything, which I'm glad I did. But at the same time, I feel like if I'd have just stuck with something, I would be much further along on that one thing, which is what I'm finding now with our automated cryptocurrency trading platform.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think that makes sense. But I'd also say part of finding your niche and finding the thing that really works for you is going through that struggle of figuring out what doesn't work, or right. Finding these other things, right? That you wouldn't be where you are today. It's easy to say I would have done this differently or I would have done that, but I think part of it is you had to figure out those other things didn't work so that you can find something that's working for you, right?
I agree. No, I'm glad for the experiences that I've had. They definitely carried over. One of the things I'd actually like to tell you about right now that I'm also doing as like a side project is OTC Crypto Markets. So over-the-counter cryptocurrency markets. So in stocks, 200 years ago, you also had over-the-counter markets. But some of the trouble was, okay, how do you verify that this person has the funds? How do you verify that this person has the stock? But at least it was, regulated by the government, right? Cryptocurrency, they currently have a similar thing where, they're big players in the market that want to exchange large volumes of cryptocurrency, but they don't want to greatly move the market. They don't want to have to deal with slippage. But there's no regulation on that market. There's no one you can trust. A lot of the problem right now is that, how do you prove that somebody has the funds or the coin to actually make the transaction? And nobody wants to give proof of their funds or coin before the other one. So it's terrible. Even with escrows, banks meeting face to face, it's ugly. But just the experience that I've had in dealing with these wealthy individuals, it carries over. So it's really like, diversifying diversifying yourself in your field can connect itself in ways that you never imagined. So because I'm, involved with these wealthy individuals in the OTC markets, some of them are fake, some of them are real. And, they know people who own exchanges or funds. I'm telling them about our automated cryptocurrency trading platform, and they're like, oh, hey, that's really interesting. Send me over what you have. And so it all carries over.
Okay. No, that's great. When it comes to, like, if someone said to you that, they want to get into a business, whatever business it might be, hey, I'm going to get into X, Y, or Z business because it's going to make me more money, what would be your advice to them, or what would you say about that?
I'd say the best place to start is dropshipping. Without a doubt, it's just the process has been laid out. It's a fairly it's very simple model. You get what you put in, and you'll be able to see those results, maybe after a month of, just building up your store, making sure that the right supply channels are in order, and, just properly marketing. It's a proven model. A lot of people say it's very saturated, and it is. There's a lot of people in it, but there's still room for, again, niche markets. And it's just a really good way to learn about supply and demand. And it's at that basic level. It's just sales. That's all it is. And from that, I feel like you can apply those skills into other ventures.
Okay. No, that's sometimes a really good place to start. I know years ago I did, sales on eBay, and I heard the whole Amazon thing, and I said, oh, wow, this is amazing. Let me start selling on Amazon, selling books. And interestingly enough, I was actually had a way to get these books for free. And I realized I'm still not going to make money on it because I guess people get like a bulk shipping thing. And essentially by the time someone paid me $4.99 for a book, I had to then ship it, wrap it up, blah, 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 all this stuff. And, I'd make 50 cents, and it really wasn't worth my time. So, there was other channels where you can kind of send, all the books that you have into, Amazon. You can make money that way. But, I just kind of decided that wasn't for me. But, there's plenty of people
it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. There are better margins depending on what you go into, but it is a straightforward grind. There's no like really secret trick to any of it. It's just straight sales, and it's really not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that being said, I think it's a really good place to start. I think you can learn. You can get rid of a lot of the mistakes of going through a patent that you'll never use, or building up this big team that's just going to be more of a headache than a plus. It's just you, your laptop, Wi-Fi, and time.
Gotcha. Question on, was there any time that you kind of felt stuck, or that you felt like, hey, I maybe had some doubt, or weren't sure whether this was the right move for you? And how did you overcome that? And how did you kind of stay the course, or, figure out that, yeah, I still want to stick with entrepreneurship?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Even to this day, there are a lot of times where I'm like, man, is this really going to work? Am I wasting my time? Should I, just go and, get a regular job and sort of just, keep my head down? It just comes with the territory. You're going to have ups and downs in entrepreneurship, no matter what you do. It's definitely a make or break period for a lot of people. A lot of people can't deal with the stress. A lot of people can't deal with the loss. But anybody who's ever made it in entrepreneurship, they have stories upon stories to tell about losses that they take. I mean, it's just, those downs, you got to learn to fall in love with them, because it's part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. No, I can tell you for sure, I had my first store was going great, got the second one and said, okay, well, hey, even if I make $1,000 a month on a second store, that's $12,000 more in my pocket every month. And I'm sorry, every year. And, I'm like, it's going to be more than that. And, the reality of it was, hey, every month I was losing $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month. But the flip side was my rent was $6,000 a month. So if I stick it out, at least it costs me less of a loss to try to make money than it is to just shut it down and walk away. And, for me, it was kind of like, well, if I can't, make this work, that's going to end up impacting the other store. And, sure, there were times that I was saying, this is not working. How can I get out of it? And I think, to be honest, part of what kept me going was that, I almost couldn't afford to stop.
Right.
And when it came to the first store, another group approached me and said, hey, based on what it is, store, we couldn't buy it from you, but we'll take it off your hands. And that was a tough decision, especially when you put your heart and soul into something. But it ended up being the right decision because after a while, if you're throwing more and more good money after bad, sometimes you have to cut your losses. And for me, that was one of the greatest. You hate to say it, but one of the best things I could have done was to let go of it. In hindsight, I wouldn't have said, hey, I'm going to be able to turn this around. I think that's in me anyway. I would still think that I could turn something around and make it better. And there's probably a bunch of things that I could have done differently that I've learned from. And now I can apply that to, my self-writing store. But, I think there's always going to be that, those things that you say, like, how do I keep on going, but then also knowing when to stop. So that's a balance too.
Yeah. I invest in stocks, and it's, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is you have to have a percentage that you're okay. Like, you're okay with losing. Once it goes below that percentage, you got to sell no matter what. Because stocks really will go down, and you really will lose, half your position. You always want to say, oh, it's going to go back up. It's going to recover. Sometimes it doesn't. And, it's more of a judgment call. It's harder to say with entrepreneurship. I typically think that year to 2 year range is pretty good. If you're not sort of in the plus side, or you're not bringing in revenue sort of in a year or two, I feel like that's a time where you have to really sit back and say, does this make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think some of it too is, maybe adjusting your strategy. So sometimes it can be, this is just never going to work. And other times it's going to be, this can work, but what do I have to do different? And one of the things I realized is that, had I stumbled upon the idea of targeting small businesses and networking within small businesses, and then, in that Herndon store, not necessarily relying on the people that walk through the door for a retail sale, but targeting small businesses, small and medium-sized businesses for their needs, that market could have helped keep the store afloat. But, retail is being tough at this point. I hope that I can continue to grow, in other markets, but, I kind of recognize where that one was, and disappointing, but, it is what it is. So I guess, we've been about 40 minutes in now. It's been a great conversation. Is anything else that you would kind of like want to share with someone who's saying, maybe a college student, somebody a couple of years behind you, and, you could be their mentor for a few minutes here. What would be the advice that you would give them and say, this is what I think you should do, or this is, kind of like something that I learned, and if you apply it, it can, hopefully help you and encourage you.
The best thing in the world is to find someone in a position where you want to be, and just learn from them, speak to them. Going to meetups about things that you're interested in. There's an app called Meetup, I believe. Just going and talking to these people that are successful, and just surrounding yourself with those people, I think is the best thing that you can do. It introduces things that you've never heard of. It gives you new insight. It just puts you leagues beyond where you would be if you had to research it all yourself. I found that to be my greatest resource, is people who have done it before.
That's great. No, and I agree. And that's one of the things I like about the wireless zone experience, is that you have all these other franchise owners. And when we have meetings, once a year, there's the annual conference. You get to meet with all the other owners, and sometimes we have regional ones, and just picking other people's brains and saying, hey, I do this, and what do you do? And they're like, oh wow, that's great. I'm going to use what you're doing. And then you're saying, oh, wow, that's amazing. I never even thought of doing that, or kind of other ways to attack the market, or, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's just amazing to have that. What about, I'll just leave with this, unless there's anything else you want to say, is what about mentorship? Talk about the importance of mentorship.
So I guess, in terms of the accelerator that I'm a part of, this Miller Fellowship, having these professors and entrepreneurs that are able to sort of, evaluate what you're doing and sort of, give you their input on what they think you're doing right, what they think you're doing wrong. There's an individual, actually, I have a networking event tomorrow that's part of that program. There's a gentleman named David Gardner. He's one of the biggest VCs in the area. And he just, I would love to have him as a mentor. He literally came in there, we had a conversation, everybody pitched their idea, and he dissected everybody's project and gave really great insight. For one of the companies, B&A Fit, they're a fitness app that's attempting to stream for people that are working out through an app. And he brought up a really good point. He said, the fitness app market, it's very difficult because you deal with your retention rates. So he said, what you should focus on is you should work on building a community around, people feeling accountable for one another, and somehow implement that into your app. That should be the core sort of business model. And, that's something that, I had thought of when I was, speaking to these individuals, but the way that he put it just so eloquently, and knowing that he had that experience, just was incredible. I think it's huge. I think mentorship is huge if you can find the right person.
Excellent. And then I guess I'll leave you. This was great. I greatly appreciate your time. I'll kind of leave it with, is there any kind of way that the audience or people here, is there something that, you'd be interested in having people connect with you for, a product that they can, get from you, or, how can we promote what you're doing?
Yeah, so absolutely. Thank you so much. I think for now, connecting with me on LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn as Bobby Bacon II. We're going to be building up a website, WolfGen.io, fairly soon. Right now, we're just proving that exchanges and funds want what we have, and having a website that they can come to will be a part of that. But for now, we don't have it up. So just connecting with me on LinkedIn, having a conversation. I love to talk to people. That's pretty much what I do on a day-to-day basis with WolfGen currently. So that's the best way to connect for now.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And, I'll link all that information. I'll get that from you and link it in the description below as well.
Perfect.
And thanks so much for taking the time, and be in touch. Anything I can do for you, love the opportunity too.
I really appreciate it, Sean. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Bye.